and welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry in here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, knitting bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this week's episode, I'm so excited to share with you a finished sweater. And not only is it absolutely adorable, it's gonna melt your heart and make you wanna cast on one right away. The coolest part is, it's a free pattern. I also have some kids sweaters that I'm gonna share with you. And before you go, in case that you are not a kid knitter, that is okay, because these patterns also come in adult sizes. I have failed miserably, or at least that's how I feel. I have an abandoned cast on that we need to discuss, as well as some future cast ons for the autumn and fall season. I can't wait to get started, so grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's go. So let's talk about what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the Rota jumper. This is a pattern by Irene, and let me tell you, it is really one of the most comfortable, easiest to throw on sweaters that I have. I gravitate towards it a lot because it's not too hot. It's great for these transitional weather moments. And right now, I just have been wearing it, especially in the mornings when it's a little bit cool outside, but then it gets super, super hot. So it's great to throw over a tank top, and it's just been getting a ton of wear. I knit this with Illimani Sabri too. Illimani Sabri comes in two weights. There's a fingering weight and a worsted weight. This is the worsted weight, and it's a chainette style yarn, and this is in their black colorway. It may be a number, but if it's not, it's just their black. It was super fast to knit. It probably took me about 2 weeks. It's got a great knit pattern. And this is knit from the top down. It has, it's drop shoulders, so you knit the back panel first, and then I believe you pick up for the front, and then knit in the round, and then you pick up and knit the sleeves in the round as well. Even though you're knitting flat for like a good portion of this garment, it goes by super fast because the stitch is so big, and I believe it's on fairly large needles. It has a ton of positive ease. So while I wouldn't necessarily consider this sweater a size inclusive pattern, it does range circumference wise to 63 inches. Irene doesn't state a suggested ease, so I guess you can do with that what you want. It does show that the model though has quite a bit of ease, so just something to keep in mind. I absolutely would make this again. I love, love, love this yarn. The sweater has worn so well. There's absolutely no pilling. The black is still a really, true black. It hasn't faded with washes or anything like that. It really has stood up really well for the past year that I've had this sweater. And I just really think that it is in pretty heavy rotation. One other thing I will say, I believe I did lengthen it by at least one pattern, and I probably also lengthened the sleeves because I do have quite long arms, and I don't like it when the sleeves come up on my wrist too high, and I think it was originally designed to have a little bit shorter sleeve, but I prefer it to be on the longer side. It kind of has a rapid decrease area so that you have this nice balloon effect, and I really can't say more nice things. It really is such a lovely garment. The yarn that I used really fit the pattern so well because it has a lot of drape. And this yarn is made with 85% cotton and 15% alpaca, which gives it that nice drape effect. I really can't think of anything else to kind of share about it other than one kind of, I guess, negative thing about the pattern, and maybe it's negative, maybe it's not really, because it is kind of the style. It tends to like to fall off the shoulder quite a bit when I'm wearing it, and that's fine by me. It doesn't really bother me at all, but if that's something that kind of irritates you, you could consider making the collar a little wider And you could also even do a crochet edge to kind of reinforce it so that it doesn't necessarily fall so far open. But that is maybe something to take into consideration if you do plan on wanting to knit this. So this is my Rota jumper, a pattern by Irene. She also has a version that is a tank top, and both are extremely cute. This one also has a nice little side detail, which I find a lot of her patterns do have. It has just a nice little ribbing area right here in the, I guess, underarm area, which I always kind of like. These little details kind of make everything feel more special. My Rota jumper by Irene. Let's talk about the pattern that I just finished. So last week I shared with you these yarns that I was going to make a garment for a gift for one of my friends whose daughter is having her first kid. And this is, I have a couple of friends that have grandchildren, but it's been a little while. And so I was excited to make something for her. These yarns, I used Rota, and this is the light blue, and all of their colors are numbers, and I will put the number of this color below. I just don't have the ball band right now to kind of share that with you, but it is their light blue. This is an 80-20, so 80% superwash merino or superwash wool and 20% nylon. And then I have Republic of Wool, and this is the colorway Hot Air Balloon, I believe. And it's like a mint and cream color. And so I had these two balls of yarn. I had at least 50 grams of this. I think it was more. And then this comes in a 50-gram skein. And I just was so inspired. One of you commented, why don't you make a flax sweater, or have you ever made one? That would be a great baby gift. And honestly, it hadn't crossed my mind. So I really appreciate that comment, because I just probably wouldn't have considered it. But what I will say is so originally, and a lot of times for baby gifts, I like to make the Little Sisters romper. This is a pattern by PetiteKnit. Place it here, and it takes fingering weight or sport weight yarn, and it's really great because of a few things. So it has buttons on the top and then buttons on the bottom so that you can easily change the baby if you need to rechange a shirt or change a diaper. You have those options. The other really nice thing about it is that I feel that it's a good summer and winter item, because you can wear it, or the baby, I guess you're probably not wearing it. The baby could wear it by itself with just a diaper, or you could have on leggings and a onesie underneath and wear it as like a layering piece. So there's a lot of different ways to wear it. And so for that reason, I think it's really a great gift. Depending on when the kid's born, you don't really have to worry about that. If you're concerned about knitting a fingering or a sport weight garment, then you can knit the Little Brother romper. It's exactly the same. I think it has maybe one less button for between the legs, just because it's a little bit bulkier fabric, and it's knit with DK weight, but it's essentially the same pattern in a different gauge. So I was thinking of doing that, and then one of you suggested the flax sweater. This is a pattern by Tin Can Knits, and I have never knit one before. So I looked, you can purchase, or I'm sorry, you don't purchase it. It's a free pattern, and you can use the PDF or you can use the app. I chose to use the app, and I believe the app is free. You can just pay for patterns out, like the flax pattern is free, so you can just use the app and the pattern for free, and then you can purchase some of their other patterns to use the app with. But the cool thing about the app is that you plug in, like, I want to knit the flax sweater, I would like to knit the 0 to 6 month size, and then it gives you options. What either gauge or weight are you using? So if you've swatched and you have a gauge, then you could pick a size, or I'm sorry, weight to knit it at a certain gauge that way, or you can go by, like, I have DK weight yarn, I'm gonna do this. So I chose the DK weight pattern and size 0 to 6 months. I then chose that I was gonna start with the ribbing. You can actually start with you can finish the ribbing later, but I decided to start with the ribbing. And then I also omitted the short rows. The reason I omitted the short rows is because it then makes the sweater reversible. So if you have your baby wearing it and you're out and about and it spills on it, you can just turn it around. Who's the wiser, right? So that is what I did. I also decided, so I marled those 2 yarns and then I finished it with this cute little tag. It says cute AF. And I found these at a local sewing shop called, I think, Domestic Modern or Modern Domestic. I'll link it below, but I'm sure you can find these other places. And these are labels by Cat M. And it just comes in a bunch of different colors. And there is, I don't know how many, 10 labels. So I thought that was a nice little touch. It also can kind of signify that maybe that's the front of your sweater. And it just gives a little something. It's really cute label. It has, like, they embroidered the words with like a sparkly thread. And so it really stands out nicely and I think it's really cute. I then just tack it with a little bit of thread. So that is the Flax by Tin Can Knits. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to note on the flax sweater is that when I knit the sleeves, I used magic loop. And one little trick that I have when using magic loop is when you're finishing the one side, like you're knitting along, and you get to that last stitch and before you have to kind of turn your knitting over and then continue on the other side, right at that last stitch, once you pull your needle through, you're going to tighten that stitch onto the cord. So my needle in this, for example, is a size US 6, and I'm gonna tighten it onto the cord, which is a really tiny circumference. What that's gonna do, once you get back to that stitch and you put your needle through, it's going to make the stitch, you're gonna put the needle through, which is gonna widen that stitch, right? And it's going to pull together the last stitch and the first stitch on the next needle. And so you avoid laddering. So there is no laddering at all. And I had my needles basically right about here on the knit, and you just can't tell because none of the stitches are larger. So that's a little trick. And to kind of illustrate that, well, first of all, I'll show you this. No, I'll just do it this way. Sorry. So to illustrate that, if this was magic loop and this is my last stitch here, I am going to pull the needle and I'm going to tighten that stitch on the cord. And then when I go to knit this way, this stitch is going to be very tiny. Like it's not going to be the correct size, right? But once you're knitting and you finally get back to that, it's going to, when you put the needle back through, it's going to tighten the space between here and here. That space will be smaller because you tightened that last stitch. And that way you're not going to have any laddering. So I had so much fun knitting the flax sweater for my friend's grandson that I decided I was going to knit one for my other friend who just had her baby. So I am using Arwetta or Ficalana Arwetta Classic. And again, that's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. The colors of these ones, this one is 194. It's kind of like a royal blue purple. And then 268, which is like a lavender. So those are the two colors I'm using. And I am marling them. So this is, unfortunately, I don't have that much done, but so you can get an idea, this is kind of how that fabric is turning out. And I'm really, really liking it. I think I will send some overalls or like a overall kind of dress situation, either overalls or an overall like dress thing with this in a dark denim, because I think that would be a super cute outfit. And I am also making the same size. So I'm doing another 0 to 6 month. So the yarn, when I used these ones, I had about a little over 50 grams of this, and then this is a 50 gram skein, and I still have this much left over. And basically why I have all these skeins of this Arwetta or Arvetta is because I was doing some colorwork socks, and it was essentially like a very stripy sock, and I really only used like a couple of rows of striping on the sock per color. So I knew that I had most of the skein left, and since I was safely through the skein on this one and had some to spare, I know that these will be fine. And I'm just really looking forward to finishing this. I think the color marled is just so pretty, and I'm really, really liking it a lot. And I really think there's a lot of things you can do with this pattern. So if you want, you could omit this garter, which I originally thought I was going to. I honestly wasn't sure how I felt about this garter down the sleeve, but I really think I decided I would try it for a little bit and see how I was feeling about it. And I actually think it really adds a little something to the sweater. I also think that if I were gifting this to someone I knew, or if I knew that maybe the sweater was going to be like last kid in the family or something like that, I would have done a little like monogram, because I think that could be cute, or like a little embroidered a little heart or something. But since I kind of don't know so much about this baby, I thought that would be, I would rather them decide to use it for future kids or whatever they're doing, just the way it is. I also try to pick colors for babies stuff either that makes me think of the parent or that could be considered fairly gender neutral. I would say maybe this doesn't feel so gender neutral, but I do feel like she kind of dresses her kids pretty girly, but with a little bit of tomboy. So I think this with little overalls would be cute. And this one I think is fairly gender neutral. It's light blue, but that could be really anything. And the colors together really made me think of a cloudy sky. And I think close up you can really get hints of that mint and the light blue and the white and different stitches, and it really marled together so beautifully. Like, I couldn't have picked a better marl. I really am like pleased with myself on this one. I will say, if you are searching for yarns to marl and you really don't want this like super marled effect, finding a variegated yarn with either a color that's in the yarn or one that's close to it is going to like blend really well, and you'll get more of this effect, which feels a little bit more like a more solid, I guess, fabric color, as opposed to the very like bold marling. But I think it turned out really nice. So those are the two kind of gifts that I'm working on, and I really think, again, that you could do so much with this pattern. It's a great basic raglan, so there's a lot of like modifications that can be done to either personalize or kind of like change it up a little bit to make each one feel a little different, so you don't have that monotony. But it's been a really great palette cleanser, and it really has been like, it's super fast because it's a free pattern. I will say that like every other, for the yoke, every other row you're increasing, so it's really easy to keep track of where you are. And once you split for sleeves, it's even easier. It's just very, very quick and very, very intuitive. If you want to knit a sweater for your first sweater, it would be a great one. If you want to knit a baby sweater for your first one, again, I would just keep in mind that little tip about laddering if you want to do like magic loop. But yeah, that's, I really can't say nicer things. So to the viewer who suggested that, and maybe I have put your comment here, if not, then thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that suggestion, because I probably just wouldn't have thought of it. And I was looking for something a little bit different, since, again, my friend, the one I'm making the purple one for, already has a little sister romper for me, and she already has, I think, I might have sent a Monday suit to her. So there's a few different knits that she has, and I wanted something just different to kind of round out some of the knits I've sent. Because I know that the baby will be able to wear the other ones that I have already sent for her oldest. So next up, I have my Aureliano sweater. I have been working on it. I haven't been working on it exclusively, obviously, because I finished the baby sweater, but I have been putting a lot of work into it still, and I've been working on the body of the sweater. Right now, I probably have maybe 3 more repeats of the pattern and the body will be done. And I'm really enjoying this so much. The colors that I'm using are all La Bien Aimée, and it's her mohair silk, and I'm using the color Winterfell and then Smoke and Dire Wolf, and then Mist. I really love, this is a really pretty gray. It almost has just the slightest bit of purplish to it, or even maybe a mauve. It's really, really a nice medium gray. One reason I decided to go with all of La Bien Aimé's mohair was because the silk core is so beautiful and shiny. Whoop. I don't want to drop it. So beautiful and shiny, and it really, I wanted to find either mohair that was all kind of the same inner glow, if you will. So I ended up just choosing all La Bien Aimée. I had this in stash also, which helped. Her mohair has the silk strand in it is just very, very luminous, and I think that really makes such a beautiful yarn. This sweater requires a bit more focus than some other things that I've knit, not because it's difficult, but I can't like knit without looking, or like be watching something and really focusing on it and knitting this. I really have to kind of be a little bit more mindful, just so I'm getting like both pieces of mohair and making sure I've got the pattern correct. So it's very easy pattern, but it is a little bit, takes your attention. And I always think some projects like that can be really beautiful because it really makes it more of a meditative process. And this sweater definitely has been that for me. I don't know if I said this, but this is the Aureliano sweater, and it is by Claudia Quintanilla, and she has a book coming out called Memory Lane, and I was gifted this pattern as a preview knit, and I just wanted to share that with you. One other thing, I'm really sorry, and I wouldn't normally actually leave this in a video, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. I've filmed this whole episode already, and I forgot my microphone. So I'm refilming it, and I am a little unsure if I'm either repeating myself or leaving things out. So if I've left something out, please comment below with any question you have, and I'd be happy to answer it. But sometimes it feels a little jumbled because I've said it once. Just don't know if I said it once here. So forgive me for that if I feel a little jumbled today. Okay, so that was my Aureliano. Next, I make a sweater for my kids every year. So one cute thing, my Black Pearl Magic bag, my kids wanted their sweater yarn in. So I had to move my Aureliano to my Buku bag, which I really love. And it was actually fitting in here still, which I was really impressed. So this actually holds so much more yarn than I really imagined it would. Right now I have 3 cakes in here, but it really does actually hold quite a bit. I believe this is her medium size bag. I'm not 100% sure, but definitely sign up for her newsletter if you're interested in purchasing bags and stuff for her, or look for Shayla in various yarn festivals because she has been vending, and that's where I got mine. So anyway, onto the sweater. So my oldest son, who typically is my kid who doesn't make up his mind or changes his mind quite a bit, solidly zoned in on these colors and was like, this is what I want. I'm absolutely positive, not changing my mind. So the first color he chose was Poison Dart. Poison Dart. Here's it in the cake. Here's it in the skein. Sometimes I think it's helpful to see the difference. Okay. And with Poison Dart, he chose Pop. This is all on Spun Right. This is a Spun Right round colorways, and it is on her Squish DK, which is 100% superwash merino. So Spun Right round, Pop, and Poison Dart. This is my oldest, and he's like certain this is what he wants. And my youngest chose Rumble and Brighten with Omen. And this is the Rumble and Brighten in a cake. But when he saw his brother's combination and he saw the pup, he said, oh, Mom, I wish that I had purple. So, because anytime my kids ask me for something, if I can make it happen, I would like to. I looked, and I can order this, no problem, but I thought I would see if I just had something similar in a local store. And I did come across Wandering Flock. They're 100% merino, superwash merino, in the colorway Alexandrite. And it is a little bit more blue, and it doesn't necessarily give the same vibe as the pop, but it could go. He wasn't like, yes, that's it. So he also is sitting in my yarn room while we were having this discussion, and this color caught his eye, which I think would go really well. It's a one-of-a-kind color, and it's from Lamb Good Fibers. The only issue I have with this, which isn't an issue with the yarn itself, but with the pattern, which I'll get to in a minute. But this yarn is a fingering weight yarn, and it is 400 yards, and these are 250 yards for the DK weight. And here's where this will be my one complaint, and it's gonna probably be unpopular, but maybe not. So I am going to make them the Leon or Lion sweater by PetiteKnit, and I'll place it here. And I've knit this for them before, but in very different versions. This time I plan on using this. So these are my main colors. This would be my main color, and this would be the stripe. I would be using the variegated as the main color, and then the solids as the stripe. Here's the problem with PetiteKnit patterns. And probably you might not like this, but that's okay. So when she does patterns, I think partially because she does have an affiliation with Sandisgarn yarn and uses a lot of their yarns, she only lists the yarn skein amount, or sometimes she will list the amount of like grams. So she'll say 200 grams of this yarn. So my problem is now I have to do math, because there's nowhere in the pattern where it says you need 250 yards of this yarn or 200 meters or whatever it is. It doesn't have the amount. It has like the amount of skeins. So you have to go through and say, okay, I need, or the grams. So you have to figure out math wise, like if this one has 250 grams, then I need 3 of these, and like, what is that math? So if you're not using the yarn from the pattern, you have to math. So unfortunately, for my youngest son, I don't know if 200 yards of a contrast color is enough, because it just says the math of you need this much. So what I plan on doing, because I know that the yardage for my oldest is correct, I'm gonna knit his sweater first. And then I'm going to figure out how much leftover I have so that I can figure out because I have to hold this double, if 200 yards would be enough for the contrast color. So that's kind of what is gonna have, why I have to knit this one first, so that I can figure out the other one. If it's not the right amount, then we will go back to the drawing board on if we wanna do this purple, or we want to do this is actually like a very dark charcoal gray. It's a very beautiful color, Omen. She does have a different one that I think is more of a true black, but this one I think was really nice. Like the original pairing I thought was really nice for these two. So Omen and Rumble and Brighton I thought would look nice. Plus there's like some charcoal speckles in the variegated yarn, as well as it's like marigold, yellow, hot pink, and then this bright blue color is in here. I think either option is good. I also thought maybe I could put this together, but again, I can't because I don't know if I'll have enough of this. So that's what we're doing. That's my complaint on PetiteKnit patterns. And really, beyond that, they're well written, they're well liked, many people knit them. I could, I suppose, go to the size that I want to knit and then find project pages to see if anyone measured their yarn and how much they actually used, if I wanted to get a better idea of the amount that I was gonna need. But for now, that's kind of where I'm at. So I plan on casting on the Leon sweater or lion sweater right away. Again, like I said, I did knit this before. The first one I made was all one color, and then the second one I made was a color blocked version of it that I used inspiration from a different sweater that I just wanted the same color blocking. This time I will probably follow the striping pattern. One reason I decided to choose this pattern over some of the other PetiteKnit patterns, because she does have quite a few of these like stripy sweaters. The reason I chose this one is because I really like the construction. It's super fun to knit. You knit the back panel, then you knit the front pieces, and then you pick up and knit around the shoulders and then continue in the round. And for some reason, I really thought that was really fun. Secondly, is the fit of this sweater is really amazing. So the shoulder fit for my kids has been it looked really good. Even if the sweater itself had a little bit of room to grow, they both have grown into their last year's sweaters like by far and could use a new sweater. So that is kind of, I mean, they get a new sweater every year. That's kind of what I've been doing as a little tradition, but so that they will fit them correctly, what I typically do is I choose the size, like I do their measurements, and then I choose a size that's not going to be too big, but might be just slightly big, because if I'm making it in September, they're still going to be growing, and by real sweater weather time, they're gonna probably grow a little bit, and I don't want it to be tight. I don't want it to be too small or something they're gonna grow out of right away, or even maybe in the middle of winter season. So what I typically do is just make it just the slightest bit bigger or just a little bit longer, like in the sleeve, so that they have that room to grow. My oldest too is quite thin, and so the sweater might look a little big on him, whereas my youngest is a lot more sturdy guy, and the sweater, I don't want it to be like too tight on him either. They do wear about the same size, so I am guessing, I have to check the measurements, but I probably will be making the same size sweater. So that's why if I make the oldest first, I will know for sure if I have that contrast color for my youngest. Okay, so that was the Leon sweater by PetiteKnit, and I hopefully will be casting that on today or very soon, and I'll take you along that journey with me. We'll figure out whether or not the yarn will I'll have enough yarn. I mean, I guess it's not that big of a deal, but I hate having to do math, especially if I'm like at a yarn store shopping. I don't want to have to like stop and be like, okay, let me add up this thing and like figure it out. Maybe it's because I'm not prepared when I go yarn shopping. I don't know. But anyway. Okay, so that was the Leon sweater by PetiteKnit. And next. So I was watching Grocery Girls the other day. I don't know if it's their very last episode, but it might have been the one before that. Tracy had shown that she had gotten a box from Barrett Wool Company, and it was like an ornament or some sort of kit. Which made me immediately want to go to their website and check out what they had. And as I was looking through, I noticed that they had kits for like stuffies. And my kids, when I finished these sweaters, they were like, yeah, that's great. Could you make us a sweater? But really, we want stuffies with those colors. So what I kind of plan on doing, see how much yarn I have left, and then maybe that'll be the case. But I really wanted to purchase some of their kits. They have like a cute fawn, and they have a bunny and a bear, and all these little cute kits that have like a stuffy and like clothes. Really cute. You should go check it out. But then I realized that I had this guy. This is from Frog and Cast, and they have a frog and toad. And I got a kit from Kelson Goods, and I'll link all this below. But it really was packaged so cutely. They like put your name on it. It's just really, really nicely done. The colors are like 100% like that's a frog color. And I got a frog and a toad kit, and I made frog, and then I never made toad. So for myself to have permission to buy a kit of any kind, I need to finish toad, at least. If I don't do their clothes, okay, fine, but I at least need to finish the stuffies. This one is stuffed with a walnut shell and lavender mix blend. So he smells really nice and he has a nice like weight to him to sit on something. This wouldn't be recommended for kids though. These guys are kind of mine, but they're really cute. I don't know if he'll sit up there. Okay, we'll set you there. I did make a little bit of a mistake. I don't know what was going on. And I honestly, I know what it was. You're supposed to like seam the top of the head. And for whatever reason, I had this weird little like uneven thing. And I do think I could still fix it, but I haven't done it yet. So I kind of just tucked it in. But it's a weird little bump on his head. So I just kind of push it in, which also kind of actually makes his face go forward a little bit more, but it's wrong. So don't look at mine, it's wrong. But he's pretty cute. I had a lot of fun making him. I think I made him last year, but again, like I said, I really want to get a couple of stuffy kits to make a couple for my kids, but I don't want to do it without having finished this guy, just because. And so the toad kit, or the toad, I guess, what do you call them? Body color is this color, which is really pretty. Again, this is from Kelbourne Woolens, and they did such a great job like capturing the colors of the characters from Frog and Toad. So that's something I told myself that I really need to do so that I can get a kit. So the other thing I wanted to chat about was, this is my Hashibami sweater. I haven't done anything. So I got really excited during the summertime and I cast this on and I had a couple other things on the needle. And so I set it aside and I have glanced at it in the project bag and just thought, I don't know. One problem is that I don't have any, like I could count the rows and try and figure it out because I haven't gone very far, but I don't know where I'm at on this project. Like I didn't mark it down anywhere. So there's that. And I could read my knitting and probably figure it out. But honestly, I think I need to frog this. And here's why. The pattern is cute. The Hashibami is by Ririko. I want to knit it. I think I only have enough yarn to knit it with like 3/4 length sleeves. So maybe that's part of what's bothering me because I like the look of the whole finished sweater. But again, I didn't give it enough time to like actually see if like, oh my gosh, I love this yoke. It's gonna be cool with 3/4 length sleeves, which I actually think it would be. Secondly, I really think that having a cast on that I'm not actively working on really stresses me out. So, I mean, I have a couple of projects that are slow going, but I do pick them up on occasion, and this, like, I just don't. And for me, I actually don't get too overwhelmed by stash. I do a pretty good job being somewhat balanced. I definitely would say my stash has grown, but again, I don't feel uncomfortable with it at the moment. But what does make me uncomfortable is having cast-ons that I'm not actively working on. And I'm not like sure where I'm at. That is bothering me. And so I do think I will frog this. And I only wanted to mention it on here if you have been watching the podcast for a while and you're just like, whatever happened to that sweater? Because that happens to me. I'll be watching somebody's podcast and I'm like, oh, I really love that thing that they're working on. And then you never see it again. And that's totally fair because obviously I do the same thing. But I did think before I completely frog it, I would tell you guys about it because that happens to me. I'm like, whatever happened to that sweater? I really liked it. And I haven't seen them working on it for a really long time and I don't know what happened. So if you were curious, that's kind of what's going on with that item. The other thing that's outside of knitting that I have been doing is listening to audiobooks. As I said last week, with the Aureliano, I am listening to 100 Days of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I think I'm saying that right. And the main character of the book is what the sweater is named after, so I thought it would be fun to listen to it and be knitting on it at the same time. The other book that I told you guys about last week was The Woman in Cabin 10, and some of you had read it and loved it, so I'm glad to hear it. And if you guys started listening to it because of that, great, because I thought it was a pretty good listen. And it definitely got me going. So if I am listening to an audiobook as opposed to watching a show, I typically knit a little faster, I think. I'm a little more focused on my knitting. So that's always a bonus. So what I am currently listening to, I got another Ruth Ware book from the library, and I really can't speak to this one yet because I'm like 20 minutes in, but it's called 0 Days, and so far it's quite exciting since I probably won't be ruining it for anyone because I don't know what's going on. So far, it's a woman is I think the main character, and she is in some sort of heist. So she's doing something, and I don't know what because I just started. But so far, it's kind of good. And I always love these kind of mysterious, like kind of faster moving books because it just kind of keeps my attention a little bit faster. And then the second book that I got from the library this week is Long Island Compromise, and it's by Taffy Brodesser Ackner, and I listened to her Fleischman is in Trouble a while back, and that was pretty good. So I'm looking forward to listening to this one, and it's a little bit longer of a book, so that should be interesting. And what else? I am so excited. A new season of The Circle is coming out this following week, so I'm getting really excited to watch that. And I've been watching Unreal, which I've watched in the past. It's on Netflix, and it's basically the behind the scenes of reality shows, but in a fictional story, but kind of based on the production team's view of reality shows type of thing. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but it's, since I like reality television, I have like two things to say about it. If you love reality television and you don't want the like magic or knowledge of what's going on really, you probably don't want to watch this. But if you're like, oh, I'm so curious like what the backstory is on certain things, then it's kind of fun to watch. But again, it's fiction, so I know that the person who created the show was a production assistant or a production person on like The Bachelorette or a show like that, so that's kind of loosely based on that. But it's really good. It's a fun one to watch, and it's definitely does take a little bit of the like quote unquote sparkle of reality television away, but it's fun. It's a fun watch. It does. I always have it in the back of my head. Like I watched it many years ago, and still to this day, if I see like a reality show, I'm like, oh, I wonder about certain things. So that's just a fun one that I recommend. Other than that, I am creating a couple of videos coming up. The one that's coming out first is a pattern roundup, so patterns for the autumn and fall that I'm really excited about. And also, I wanted to ask you about my second idea for a video, and you tell me what you think. And please comment below if this sounds like something you would want to watch. But I thought I could do a video on taking some of the like fall, winter runway knitwear ideas that maybe we saw and see how they are being reflected in maybe patterns that are coming out, or like, look, they did this sort of big all over cabled sweater on this runway, and here's a cool pattern that kind of can give you the same vibe type of thing. If that sounds interesting to you, please comment below so that I know that's something that you guys would be interested in making, because I love making those videos. They do take some time, so I do want to make sure that it's something that you guys would actually watch. So let me know. Other than that, if we're not yet knitting besties, what's going on? Hit that subscribe button and like this video because it tells YouTube that other fiber enthusiasts like yourself enjoy this type of content. Until a week or so from now, make some yarn magic. Bye!